Welcome to The Whole Pineapple. I'm Ruby Boris.
And I'm Ann Judge. The Whole Pineapple is a podcast about wellness focused around fertility. And on these weekly mini episodes, we bring you bite-sized ideas for you to snack on.
Like breathing exercises, book reviews. Maybe we'll review some scientific research, or we'll share some wellness and fertility stories from our listeners.
So if you're looking for a tip or a trick related to your fertility and well-being, then you've come to the right place.
Let's dig in.
We are so happy to welcome back Jamie Mammenga. Hopefully you've been listening to her monthly sessions. Just the sound of Jamie's voice always makes me feel calmer. And if you listen to our full episode this week, we kind of delved into the history of fertility medications, but we thought this could be useful to talk a little more about what it's like on the patient side, because working here for so long, being a former patient myself, the whole idea that you might have to give yourself injections is scary. I don't know, people are always a little shy to tell me I don't really like needles, and I'm like, that's totally normal. I don't think I expect anybody who's going to be super psyched to give themselves a shot. Even myself, I was a nurse before I started going through fertility treatment, and I've given other people injections, all day, but it's different to do it for yourself. And we just thought today we could go a little bit into what you can do to get through that and how to prepare yourself, because it's a source of stress and anxiety for many, many people. So Jamie, welcome back with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And Jamie, I assume this is something that people talk to you about too. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Nobody likes this part.
And how do you usually start that conversation?
Well, I think just acknowledging upfront, that nobody likes this part, that this is definitely a challenge for everybody, and that this is new for a lot of people, mixing the medications and, what is it going to be like to give myself this injection, or for my partner to give this to me if I have a partner or a support person, and it's just, it can be very stressful. So people are often, and I think that there's a lot of pressure to want to do it right.
Yes, definitely. And that's been, I think, an interesting pivot with COVID. Is back in the day, we used to do these in-person training sessions, which I think was nice for people. A lot of people love the fact that they're done with that now they're watching videos online, because you can do it by yourself. You can watch on your own schedule. You're not having to come into the clinic and physically practice in front of somebody. But I do feel like when we used to do it in person, that was a little calming, just to have that muscle memory of, yes, someone is watching me mix it and poke into this sponge, and I do know that I'm doing it right. But I really tell people all the time, these medications are trying to be as patient-friendly as possible. And so although it might seem awkward to learn how to use a pen or to learn how to mix, that's why they have those very detailed videos. And if you follow along, you're really not going to do it wrong. You're not having to place anything that specifically. There's a lot of wiggle room in terms of the medications. And I think people are more intimidated, obviously, in the beginning. And once you've done a couple nights of it, it does really get a lot easier.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the experience that a lot of the people that I work with tend to have is, there's a lot of buildup of fear beforehand. And then once you kind of get used to it, you kind of get into a routine, and it's not so bad.
And it's a really normal fear. We were talking about this a little bit in the beginning. I want to hear a little more your thoughts about why this is such a common source of anxiety for people.
Yeah, well, there's a few different things around this. First of all, some people can have some negative experiences related to needles or medical procedures that go back. They could have some trauma around it potentially, especially people who have had chronic conditions that have required injections and things like that. There's also there can be an interesting genetic and family history.
Really?
I was looking into this, and 80% of adults who have this condition reported a first-degree relative who also suffered from the same phobia. So that was kind of an interesting thing that I learned as I was preparing to support patients through this. And then, there's evolutionary influences, which makes sense too. Back in the day before we had wonderful antibiotics, it wasn't a very safe thing to puncture your skin. So
that's very true.
So I think that there were some evolutionary adaptations there. And then, there's also some vasovagal reflex, right, where some people may experience a response to even just the sight of needles, I think because of some of these other things that I already mentioned, and they can kind of experience that drop in blood pressure and dizziness and, and that also can tend to run in families, which I think was kind of interesting. But I think it's also important to know that there are things that you can do to make this better.
And what do you usually tell people? Like, I think kind of the first step is acknowledging that this is a normal thing, because I think a lot of people are afraid to bring up to us that they're not just the normal, I don't like needles, but they are like physically not sure if they're going to be able to give themselves injections. And that's something that we need to know, because there really are a lot of things we can do to make it easier, or worst case, there are alternatives. There are services people can hire, but it gets expensive, it gets complex. And I really encourage people to try, if at all possible, to find a way to do the shots themselves, because otherwise, so much of this process is loss of control, right? And if you're at the mercy of someone who's just doesn't show up at the night that you have to give your trigger injection, that's really, really stressful too. And with the proper training and coaching, it's rare for me to find someone that's not able to find a way to be in control of getting this medication into their own body. But there are some people that can't, and we do have other sources that you can use. But it's much, I think, overall less stress in the process if you're finding a way to know that you're going to get these things done at the schedule that they have to be done, because some things are kind of time sensitive.
Yeah, exactly. And also I think it can be helpful if you do have a support person that can help you if you're having a hard time doing the injection yourself. If you can have a support person that is able to help you, that you can really rely on, that can be helpful too, so that you can focus on doing, meditation or whatever you need to do, some deep breathing. But if you're going to do it yourself, you can do a lot of that ahead of time as well. So I always encourage people, mix the medications, get everything set up and prepared ahead of time so that you feel really in control and you can be really calm that it's all, done the way that it needs to be, that you want it to be, and kind of lay things out. And then take a step back and do some deep breathing or listen to some soothing music or something distracting. When you're feeling one emotion, it can actually be helpful to engage other emotions. So if you enjoy comedy, maybe it would be a good thing to take a moment and listen to like a short comedy clip that you enjoy, or you can do some progressive muscle relaxation, which is really, you can find this on YouTube or often on those different meditation apps, but it's a guided meditation that works on breathing, but also on tensing and relaxing muscle groups, and kind of from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. So, or even just visualizing a calming place, some, kind of your favorite place that you feel peaceful and centered, and doing those things before you, engage in this process to really bring your stress level down.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. And I love the idea of kind of developing a routine for it too. Mm-hmm. And I know now we're mostly technology based. Sometimes we might have a portal where you can be kind of clicking off medications, but even old school, just like printing out your calendar so you can like cross off each injection as you do it, because also you're in a lot of hormones. It's stressful. There are going to be times that people are like, wait, did I do this? Did I do that this morning? Or am I just like remembering yesterday? And then you get paranoid. So having some form of making it very clear that you are marking off when you are getting them done, kind of like a little countdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, because especially if your fear is involved, then your thinking and reasoning brain is not functioning as well as it normally did. It kind of gets turned off. So really having those supports set up, or a pattern of how you do things, right, set up, I think that can be really, really helpful. And then also, if you do have a support person that is helping you with this, another thing that can be really helpful is, having them engage your thinking and reasoning brain, since we're talking about that. So having them like ask you questions or something like that that you have to really think about as you're,
which is good. Although it sounds so annoying in the moment. I'd be like, stop asking me questions. But I can see how that would kind of trick your brain into going into that mode.
Yeah, exactly. And I know it does. It doesn't work for everyone. I think the most important thing is finding what works for you.
Yeah.
What makes you feel most comfortable? Like, do you feel the most control when you're laying down, when you're sitting up, when you're standing up? Where do you feel the most comfortable? Make sure that you are, paying attention to what makes your body feel calmer and makes you feel more in control.
Definitely. And that's something else that I tell people, figure out what works for you, because you might have read, someone else's tip that they really liked icing the skin first. And then you try, or like, well, that added 10 minutes to my process and made my skin feel tingly, but didn't help the rest of me. So maybe I don't want to ice. And you have to figure out what's going to be useful for you, to make it a routine that you can get through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we are lucky enough to have you guide us through something today. Was there anything else you wanted to add first before we listen to your calming presence?
The only other thing that I would say is there is a lot of research behind tapping. And so you can't see me, I know, but if you can imagine, like picture, like just sort of gently tapping on your face with your fingertips, on your forehead, on your cheeks, just kind of tapping all around your face, but mostly on sort of like your forehead area. And there is a lot of research behind that being very soothing for our brains and sort of distracting our system as well. And so it might be an interesting thing to try and see if that's something that feels useful for you.
That's so cool. I've never heard that before. I want to tap myself right now.
Yeah, when you're feeling like you're in a really anxious moment, it can be actually really helpful to tap. So I've tried it. I've definitely been in one of those situations, where I've been like out in public and here I am tapping my face. And I'm sure I get some interesting looks, but I've found it to be helpful. So
awesome. Well, Jamie, we are so fortunate to have you. I'll go quiet and let you do your meditation.
I want to guide you through a brief meditation to help you let go of fear. Today we're going to use a visualization to allow us to disconnect and separate from the fear that may be holding us back. So let's find a comfortable seated position with your hands resting gently on your legs. Let your eyes close and begin to focus your attention on your breathing. Just taking gentle breaths in and out. You don't need to change your breathing for this practice. Just notice it. Allow it to flow comfortably. And notice how the cool air feels in your nose as you breathe in. How your chest gently rises, and how relaxing it feels to breathe out again. Just breathing gently and at your own pace. I want you to imagine standing up from where you are now, whether you are in your home, your office, your doctor's office, and imagine walking right outside onto the street where there are 2 large empty suitcases waiting for you. Imagine standing in between these 2 suitcases so that you have one in each hand. We're going to focus on the suitcase on your left first. The suitcase is here for you to fill, and I want you to picture placing all of the fear you have built up from past experiences or traumas or things that made you feel uncertain or that diminished your inner confidence in some way. Imagine packing all of those things into this suitcase and zipping it closed. Picking up this suitcase with your left hand, imagine the weight of all that fear that has accumulated over time. This is the heavy burden you have been carrying. Take a moment to reflect on how this burden has been weighing you down. Now gently shifting your attention to the suitcase on your right, imagine all the fear that may be present for you right now, or worries you may have for the future. Take a moment to notice where this fear is currently residing in your body. Is it showing up as tightness or upset in the pit of your stomach? Or maybe heaviness or a constriction in your chest, your neck, your throat? Could it be present as tension in your shoulders or your jaw or your forehead? Notice the other feelings that may surround your fear. such as anxiety, worry, self-doubt, irritability, insecurity. Wherever it is residing in your body and whatever feelings seem to accompany this fear, I want to invite you to simply take a moment to breathe into those spaces and feel free to gently move and shift your body as you breathe to loosen tension and tightness you feel there, allowing the soothing nature of your breath to slowly fill your body with healing energy. Now imagine taking all that fear, emotion, and sensation that we just acknowledged and place it into the suitcase on your right, filling up that case with all of the discomfort that you have been carrying. Imagine all of that now being tightly and securely packed into this suitcase as you zip it up. Return now to the street and take a moment to picture yourself standing there in the street holding both of these heavy suitcases and feeling the full weight of their contents. As you hold these heavy bags, I invite you to reflect on the fact that we do not need to identify with the traumas that we have experienced in the past. And we do not need to place blame on ourselves for the fear that has accumulated or that we have experienced in the past. This trauma does not need to be a part of our identity. And notice that we have a choice to let go. And that the blame and shame are not helpful or invited here. Rather, I invite you to reflect on how our past experiences can actually help shape us into the beautiful and complex humans we are. Reflect on how we grow as people, not through the good times, but through the challenging ones. The difficulties we face can often help make us more aware of the special and unique strengths we possess and the fortitude that lies within. Now bring your awareness back to your present self standing on the street and to the suitcase in your right hand that contains your current fears as well as those for the future. And I invite you to reflect on your unique ability to choose how you live and act moving forward from this moment, despite the fear. You have the power and the choice to change the space this fear has taken up inside you. Instead of hindering you, you can allow it to help build your resiliency and your character. And with that, now picturing yourself in the street, imagine holding up just the heavy suitcase in your left hand that contains your past fear and trauma. Reflect on how it is impossible to change the past. All we can do is learn from it and grow from it and choose to move forward and hopefully become a better version of ourselves. And standing there in the street with your left arm still raised, holding on to this heavy case, make a conscious decision. Do you want to let go of this suitcase containing the past fear and trauma? If you do, simply drop it. Just let go and drop it. Again, picturing yourself in the street with your right arm holding the heavy suitcase that contains the fear of the present and future. Consider how this energy is not useful or helpful to you in this moment and in your life. What a burden it is, and how it hinders your ability to take chances and move through your life with the inner confidence that you deserve. Now, standing there in the street with your right arm still raised, carrying this heavy case, make a conscious decision. Do you want to let go of the suitcase containing the fear of the present and future? If so, simply drop it. Just let go and drop it. Now that these two suitcases are on the ground, full of the burdens and weight of this fear that you have been carrying around, imagine yourself simply walking away from them and returning to the space where you are currently sitting, your home or office or doctor's office. Imagine yourself sitting back down with a feeling of relaxation and relief, feeling free and liberated from the weights that have been keeping you down, having let go completely. When you return home after a long and stressful trip away, how amazing does it feel to step into your own space and experience the safety and familiarity of your home? You drop your bags at the door and simply sink in and relax, resting peacefully and calmly in the present. So now, this moment, allow yourself to simply rest. Noticing your breath gently flowing in and out. And you can stay here for as long as you would like. And when you're ready, open your eyes and re-enter your day feeling lighter, more confident, and at peace. Namaste.
Thank you so much. Be well.